We just had a 10-year-old boy that killed his mom. Why nobody want to talk about the drugs that boy was taking? Most of our children on some type of psych drugs. They're prescribing 3-year-olds anxiety drugs that have side effects of suicide, side effects of homicide. What I'm saying is that we already have a form of demonic possession that's entering people through junk food, but then you're going to add on type of psych drug that also alters the brain. Yes. That's why we have so much homicide, suicide, and so much depression and anxiety and so forth. And they know this.
It's evident that he cares. What do you care about? Welcome to the Rock Newman Show. It's the Rock Newman Show.
Good evening. This is another edition of Rock Newman Show 2.0. As always, I very much appreciate you tuning in, listening to us. We're here at 1918 Martin Luther King Avenue at WEAC Radio. I say it fairly often. I have a great deal of comfort being here on Martin Luther King Avenue. So thanks for joining me this evening. You know, tonight's show is being done as a result of, I think it was October the 29th, that I was in Durham, North Carolina, not really realizing that Howard University was playing North Carolina Central for their homecoming. And when I found out, you know, I was like, okay, I'm here in Durham. I've got to go see this game. And after the game, I reached out to the Minister of Wellness, who is our guest tonight, Nathaniel Jordan. And I reached out to him from a psychological seat of despair. Let me explain. When I was at the game, I ended up being in the second row near the largest point of egress and degress. Am I saying that right? Ingress and egress. Where I could see everybody coming, pretty much see everybody coming in. And for more than an hour, I watched our people come in. And I calculated loosely, not scientifically, but I calculated that more than 80% of the people coming in and out, that they were in various stages of obesity. Various stages of obesity, and interestingly dressed in ways that appeared to me for there to be full acceptance of their obesity. And I'm not, and many of the 80% that I'm talking about were massively obese. And there were midriffs and bellies. There was hot pants. You know, a friend of mine called it butts and guts. And this is not about, you know, any kind of intentional criticism to diminish anyone. I was making an observation through the eyes of someone who has struggled with my weight all my life, who is on yet another health journey. And it just appalled me that our people, we're killing ourselves.
Yes.
And so I've gone on this health journey. I've gone to the doctor and gotten sort of examined from head to toe. And oftentimes what I would do after the examination, and sometimes there being medicine prescribed, none, zero, of which I've yet taken. I often would call the Minister of Wellness, Nathaniel Jordan, who I had an incredible experience with back in 2018, and get his opinion on things. And each time I got his opinion and followed through on what he might have suggested, I found myself feeling better. His mission is one of health and wellness. He has dedicated his life to that. So without me rambling any further, Nathaniel Jordan, the Minister of Wellness,
yes,
welcome
sir.
to the Rock Newman Show.
Thank you.
2.0.
Thank you, Brother Rock. Is glad to be back. It's been a long time. And
So I said I called him from a seat of despair. And what I asked him, knowing that he had dedicated his life, that he has dedicated his life and is so passionate about trying to help our community with its health, with its wellness, to ask him if he felt as if we have lost that battle. And as opposed to trying to capture what he said, do you feel we've lost this battle?
we're losing, but we is never lost because it's so easy to reverse the despair and the condition. It's just getting enough of the knowledge out there. But we are losing, but I don't preach hopelessness. I preach hope, inspiration, motivation that has inspired thousands of people to change. So no, we're losing, but we're not going to. It's not going to be lost.
There are ways to stop the loss.
Yes, exactly.
Stop the losing.
Right. Yeah, we're losing a lot of battles, but I know that in the end we'll win the war.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you probably a question that's impossible to answer, or we don't have enough days that you're going to be here for you to answer, because it's a lot of answers to this, I know. I would ask you, what do you think are some of the top reasons that our community, the elderly,
Yes,
the middle-aged, tragically, the youth,
yes,
are walking around in such ill health, and oftentimes that is as a result of flat out being too fat,
yes.
flat out obesity. What most contributes to that?
Addiction, food addiction. The food system is a drug. There's $1 billion industry that's designed to keep people addicted to what kills them. We're addicted to our own genocide. We're not addicted.
Oh Lord, folks, listen to that. I'm doing a little Deion Sanders here right now, but listen to that. We are addicted to our own genocide. I'm sorry, Nate.
Yeah, we are, because every other element of what we call white supremacy, we're not addicted to those. We're not addicted to being broke. We're not addicted to being shot by the police. We're not addicted to this. We're not addicted to that. A lot of us are even coming to the understanding of overcoming, even in the religious atmosphere, the white Jesus concept. But that food, those donuts, that fried chicken, it is the ultimate, it's the ultimate test of overcoming the whole system. And we're losing that by a landslide to the point where we want to ignore it. And so that's why messages like what I preach, I'm not the most popular one.
Yeah.
If I was preaching black finances, 1,000 people in the room.
Yeah.
If I was preaching black, if I was holding rallies to, for the criminal justice system, the school to prison pipeline, all important issues.
Yeah.
But when you talk about sheer numbers, it is indisputable that poor health is what's killing us. And so the foundation should be health. And then when you have excellent health, then you build on top of those things. But because of addiction, we want to kind of push that to the side and focus on everything else. And the results are disastrous.
So since you speak of addiction, I want to get into that a little further. Mm-hmm. So I had a conversation with a 56-year-old. I know that because I went to his 55th birthday party. But highly successful attorney, Washington, D.C. attorney. Charged $1,200 an hour.
Right.
And gets it and has clients lined up.
I know who you're talking about. You tried to connect me with him.
Oh, okay, but we're not going to call him the name.
I know what you're talking about.
So we were betting each other as to who could lose the most weight. Mm-hmm. And he said, you know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to make a bet. He said, I drank plenty of liquor.
Yeah.
Which I don't do anymore. I've done all kinds of mind-altering things that I don't do anymore. I have been able to conquer that.
Yes.
But when I drive 2 miles past those golden arches and think about the taste that I get, and how good that Big Mac makes me feel, and those French fries. Now I like a lot of ketchup. Mm-hmm. He said, I don't get another 2 miles before I make a U-turn, and I know I shouldn't do it. Yeah. Man, I went to undergrad. I graduated at the top of my class. Yeah. I went to law school. I graduated summa cum whatever whatever he did. So I know I got plenty of sense. Yeah. And my mind, one of them, is telling me to keep going, don't go back. Right. But that one that is ruling, and that's why my waist has expanded the way that it is, and I'm fat now. Yeah. So you mentioned that it's a $1 billion industry.
Yes.
Are you suggesting that a McDonald's or other fast foods, that there is some science behind them addicting us?
Yeah, absolutely. There's books that's been written on this for years. Salt, Sugar, Oils by Michael Moss. That's an excellent book where he talks about how it's pretty much, people call it science. Me having a strong focus on the faith community, I call it what it is. I say it's sorcery, because they manipulate ingredients in a laboratory. They manipulate the ingredients until they know that the burger and the fry will have maximum impact on the human brain, meaning that they know that it's more addicting than heroin, meth, and crack cocaine. They test it on animals. And in some of the tests, they'll watch rats and they'll eat it, and they get so obese that their guts explode. And it's only until they have tested it in a lab to where it reaches its maximum dopamine level in the brain that they release it to the public. So the food is designed towards addiction in the same way that any successful drug dealer wants you to keep coming back. Well, they want you to keep coming back. This is brain manipulation. It's evil. And when I think about it, it angers me, because they know that they're killing people with this stuff. They know that most people, that when you're talking about the altering of the brain, and so they know that no matter how intelligent and successful somebody is, like Steve Jobs, you can't beat this. And so they know that, and they don't care, because all they care about is money. And so what happens with our people is that, like you said with the brother, we know what we're doing is wrong, but there's such there's a shame that comes with not being able to overcome that form of genocide. But shame isn't good, because guilt, when you're guilty about something, you'll take the steps, you'll repent from the guilt, and then you'll change. Shame leads to depression, and shame also leads to the brain coming up with defense mechanisms to where you start lying to yourself about what you're doing. Well, I don't want to be that small anyway. Well, I don't do this and this and this, or I only do it in moderation. And so that's the shame that comes along with, and that's what they've created with what I call the frankenfoods and the extreme food addiction.
And can you share with us the components of food addiction?
Well, it's 12 of them, and I have a 12-part series on food addiction. The first one is the pleasure trap.
Let me say something. You say you have a what on it?
Yeah, a 12-part series on the 12 components of food addiction.
That the public can search for and find.
Yeah,
so look, man, unlike previous times when I was doing the show, I had certain restrictions, but I don't have them here.
Yes, sir.
I don't have those same restrictions here. I don't have restrictions. So I feel as if my job and responsibility is to do the best I can, the way that I can, from the platform that I have, to try to positively impact my community.
Yes.
So I don't do this for some commercial interest of mine or yours, but I want my listening audience to hear what you're saying right now, and then to be able to access your information so that they can help themselves.
Yes.
So tell me what they are and where my viewing audience can access them.
Well, real quick, where you can find them, we have a YouTube channel, The Minister of Wellness Ministries. So we are on YouTube.
Let me repeat that.
Yeah.
The Minister of Wellness Ministries.
Yes.
Look it up. Google it. Look it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we all over. So in the description box of all of our videos, it'll take you to that 12-part series. So the first one is the pleasure trap. The pleasure trap means that what I've just said, we have very evil people intentionally altering human physiology and psychology by turning a food into crack for the masses. And once the brain gets hooked, it sends that dopamine surge to the brain. It alters the chemistry of the brain to where the pleasure of what you're doing overrides your common sense. That's the pleasure trap. From there, it all goes downhill from there. So you don't ever want to get there, but once you get there, it all goes down. Second is cravings. Now, the cravings come from parasites. These foods that they're making are fake food. It's not even food. That's why I call it frankenfood. This isn't real food. Real food comes from the earth. Real food is what we, in our insanity in embracing our genocide, we call real food, rabbit food. The stupidest thing I've ever heard, but I understand that addictive psychology. I used to think the same way.
Dick Gregory used to say, we got a big job. Many things of what he was talking about. And it makes me think about that as I hear you say this. It's a big job, but please proceed.
Yes, sir. So the cravings, that's why you can't make it past what I call the McDookies. You can't make it past McDookies because the parasites that come from eating fake food, it builds parasites right in the gut, and those parasites take over the brain, and it's like an alien life form that's living in our bodies. I know that sounds incredible, but it's true. Just look up Google parasites, and they take on different forms and shapes, and they have their own personality and so forth. And so they will take over the brain, just like in the Alien movies. And that's why you turn your car around. You're a full-blown diabetic, and you're going to go out of your way to almost crash in the middle of traffic just so you can have a big crack. So that's the cravings.
Right.
Then we have the third component is the extinction burst, to where when you try to come off of the junk foods, it's the same process of overcoming any other addiction. Make no mistake about it. That's the biggest battle you will ever face in your life. It's the biggest physical and spiritual battle you will ever face in your life. That's why it's ubiquitous. It doesn't matter if you're a black Christian. It doesn't matter if you are a black Kemet. It doesn't matter. You see, whatever population I speak before, whether it's the church or whether it's the conscious community, everybody struggles with this.
Yeah.
No one, even the great nation of Islam, have failed in this.
Yeah.
Even you go in their congregation, you're like, what happened? 50 years ago, you all were small. Now all of you all are obese. It is the greatest weapon of mass destruction we have ever faced. And so the extinction burst is that the brain, the parasites will constantly try to get you back hooked. If you don't destroy the parasites, it will always keep playing with your mind to get you to come back to what's killing you. And then that goes into spontaneous recovery.
Okay. So look, folks, give me where they can get that again, Nate.
The Minister of Wellness Ministries YouTube channel.
The Minister of Wellness Ministries YouTube channel. So what I want to do is he gave 3 or 4, look, folks, love yourself and look for this. Go to the man's site. There is a wealth of information there that will positively impact your health. So Nate, you're talking about putting an emphasis on the parasites.
Yes.
What do we do to fight the parasite?
Okay, so how you kill the parasites is 4 things you need to do. The first thing is undergoing colon hydrotherapy. Colon hydrotherapy, that's when they suction out fecal matter and any waste that's built in the gut that is food for the parasites. Colon hydrotherapy will pull that out. And I'm a living witness to this because from me getting addicted to vegan junk food and gaining 66 pounds from vegan junk food, I had...
In what period of time?
That happened over the course of, it took a few years. It took a few years. It's not as easy. Look, just
to personalize this, folks. I told you, Nate worked with me, and I was in some of the best health that I had been in as an adult. And we, just natural circumstances took us apart. In 2018, sort of maybe July of 2018. And so at that time, you were 165-ish, right. Somewhere thereabouts, and you gained 60 pounds.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. Over the course of...
And you said you got addicted to...
vegan junk food.
Veganism. Junk food.
Yeah, I got addicted to veganism. Veganism is where you don't eat any animals because you understand that the meat industry is operating on one of the highest levels of evil in our world right now, which is true. I absolutely don't support. I mean, if most people seen where they animals is coming from, you would never eat meat again. It's an absolute abomination. That's why it's against the law for you to even record where your chicken, your fried chicken, your beef burgers are coming from. Also, something we can talk about is that childhood starvation could be eradicated if people stop eating meat, because they would rather, what we have in this society is they are fattening cows and chickens with feed versus using that land and that food to feed children dying of starvation. That's something real that everybody needs that you need to do your research on. So when you're talking about famine, drought, rivers drying up, let me tell you something. These days of our gluttony, it's coming to an end. The time is going to come when you're going to be happy for that rabbit food. So we might as well get ready now.
And when you talk about rabbit food, you're talking about what people call rabbit food, which is what?
Which is your grapes, your berries, your melons, your green vegetables, your nuts and seeds. These are the things that give us our superpower. You want to operate at the highest level possible, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. That's what we should be consuming. I was teaching people last night. I said, here's how you reverse all disease and strengthen your immune system, because there is a worse pandemic that's coming. You want to eat your fruit. juice your vegetables, and take your herbs. That's how you heal. The reason why I say juice the vegetables versus a message I had before that was focused on what I call the G-bombs was because what I've learned is that green vegetables, with all of their super magical benefits, very hard to break down in the body. So it's better to get them by juicing them. Most true herbivores have 2-3 stomachs to break down that cellulose. Fresh fruit is what we humans are mostly designed to consume. That is the fresh fruit. It's the most easy. That's why we have the thumbs and the hands to just pick the apple, pick the peach, and then it's much softer for us to consume. So that's what we should be eating. So back to the vegan junk food. So yeah, I would never support an industry like that. I can't ever bring myself. I'm somebody where I used to be able to eat a whole bucket of fried chicken. It's just no way I could ever do that again. So, but with that said, that's not the end. That's not the beginning to health. The elimination of meat in and of itself does not equate to health. And that's what the vegan movement tries to teach, that just eliminate the meat and you're good. Or they so on the extreme end of trying to save the animals, which I mean, I understand, but you don't sacrifice human life to save no animals. You're not going to put me on no lab meat. So yeah, I started the addiction to the white flour, which is just as deadly as meat. All of these fake meats, you can still pretty much have the same thing, just call it vegan. And so over the course of a few years, by the time I met my wife, I had got up, when she met me, February 2020, I was 210. And then I tipped off at 222 as a strict vegan. So I have 2 success stories. What I'm saying is that I actually have 2 success stories. I lost 100 pounds. I went from 260 to 160, getting off the meat, getting off of what is the basics standard American diet, or what I call the satanic American diet. I lost 100 pounds getting off of that. But then I have a success story to where I kept that off for many years leading up until meeting you. Never thought I could ever get past even 180. But then I became a vegan. I was very strict on the plants. Then I became a vegan, gained 66 pounds, and now I've lost all of that. So I have 2 success stories. So I can help people. I can help you get off the meat and the dairy, and I can help you get off of that. And now I can help you if you've gotten trapped on the vegan junk food. I can help you get off of that. So all areas of addiction and overcoming this thing, all praises to the Most High.
Folks, don't put your head in the sand. I know there's a temptation to do that. I know there's a temptation right now to tune us out. To tune out what the brother is saying. You tune us out at the risk of your health and the risk of you checking out of here and losing your loved ones. Don't turn us off. Don't turn us off. Pay attention more. You know, there's something that has gnawed at me for a good amount of time. Somewhere one day we might have been walking, we might have been working out. I don't know what we were doing. But you kind of casually mentioned something happened with a police officer acting in some kind of violent way. For those of you that don't know, Nathaniel was a member of the St. Louis City Police for several years. And you casually mentioned something that police officers typically have one of the worst diets. Okay, so you said that, and then we started talking about whatever else we were talking about. But when you see some of the unrealistic, barbaric, insane behavior of police officers, not all white. They ain't all white. Do you feel as if their typical diets you were talking about, they eat a whole lot of fast food? Do you think that contributes to some of their destructive behavior?
Yes, sir. That was one of our last lectures, which I'm going to come back to the DMV in April and bring back one of our last lectures that we did together in June 2018 at Howard University was Genocide by Diet, how junk food has created an epidemic of mental illness and violence in the black community. And that lecture was focused on, and it's up right now, that's when Roland Martin came out and live streamed it through his channel. You can still look it up on YouTube, the lecture we did. It has almost 200,000 views. And in that lecture, I went over their science proving indisputably that these junk foods destroy brain function. Everything down to our emotions and the decisions we make are controlled by our brain. Our brain is fueled by what we eat. So yeah, this is the worst thing in the world to have police officers. They the last group of people with all the stress and expectations they have to be sitting here eating a worse diet than most of our people eat.
You know, I mentioned Dick Gregory earlier, saying often he would lace his speeches with saying, we've got a big job. Something else that he said very much related to what you're talking about. Dick Gregory said, we are digging our graves with our teeth.
Yes. Yes.
And I know you guys honor Dick Gregory. Nate is bringing to us, Nathaniel Jordan, who's my guest tonight, is bringing to us a hard truth. There's another guest I had, his name was Tony Browder, and he talks about Egypt, and he talks that one of his responsibilities is to reconstruct our way of thinking about history, really. And I bring his name up because we are in the wilderness.
Yes.
When it comes, we are so utterly bombarded by advertising and food promotion and drugs. And I want to talk about that in just a moment.
Yes, sir.
That Malcolm X said, dropping a lot of names here, Malcolm X said, you know, the enemy will have you so confused, you will praise the enemy and not love people that love you. Yes. So we are so, this thing is turned so far upside down. Marketing and advertising works. You know, I want your beloved to understand that we are being impacted in the most adverse way by this marketing and understanding that I talk. And look, Nathaniel Jordan has had the courage and the commitment to his people to step out with his body of knowledge now. I'm editorializing, not something you ever said, it's just my observation. He could be hired by industry to impart a language. I'm not going to say a knowledge, I'm going to say a language. They would love to hire him and pay him a very, very lucrative salary, not to do what he's doing right now. But he and his wife, I've watched, he and his wife are toiling in the field to try to do everything that he can to help the community that they both so love. This is real. This is real. Yes. And when people are doing that, they need your support. Yes. They need your love. Yes. They need your action. You know, you didn't hear me say prayer. I'm sure they'll take prayer too. But damn it, action. Amen. Is what is needed to support them, because they need to live to continue to be able to pass along this message. Amen. And I don't want to be too preachy here, but look, as a country boy who's trying to work on myself, there's some things that become blatantly obvious. Look, I don't have to convince you. All you got to do is to open your eyes and see the tragedy that we are talking about, our horrible health,
Yes.
our dying young.
Yes.
I just spoke with the mayor of Washington, D.C. yesterday. As far as I'm concerned, it was a great interview. She is wonderful. But, you know, I talked about youth violence.
Yes. Yeah.
And there are certain policies that can address that. We didn't talk at all about food.
All right.
We didn't talk at all about the drug industry.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you. We've been talking about food. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about it here. But let's flip over to the drug industry and the ads that we are bombarded with from the time the TV comes on in the morning until we pass out at night.
Yeah. Toxic Psychiatry. That's a book that I'm reading now by a psychiatrist named Dr. Briggens. And Dr. Briggens, he intentionally got all the degrees just so he could buck the system, kind of like how I am. So he's a full-blown certified psychiatrist, medical doctor, Harvard, all of those things. And he has been preaching from the time.
What's the name?
His name is Dr. Briggens, Breggins. Toxic Psychiatry, Dr. Briggens. He's a psychiatrist. He'll quickly come up if you research him because he's one of the very few. So he's in psychiatric school in the wards, and he's taking notes that this what are we doing? We're actually helping these people to get worse mental illness. If you even would just sit down and talk to them, I noticed that the schizophrenics improve just from love and support. I noticed that most of the mental illness is coming from trauma. Why are we drugging them? Why are we lobotomizing them? And so what I'm saying is that the psychiatric industry, the drug industry, is $1 billion industry that's based on managing sickness, managing disease. And they want to keep you sick so they can profit from that sickness. And mental illness is huge. It is a massive, and that's the buzzword these days. You just had a 10-year-old boy that killed his mom. Why nobody want to talk about the drugs that boy was taking? Most of our children on some type of psych drugs. They're prescribing 3-year-olds anxiety drugs that have side effects of suicide, side effects of homicide. What I'm saying is that we already have a form of demonic possession that's entering people through junk food, but then you're going to add on type of psych drug that also alters the brain. Yes, that's why we have so much homicide, suicide, and so much depression and anxiety and so forth. And they know this. They know this. Again, these things sound amazing, but yet we're talking about 10, 20, 30 years ago, we've had psychiatrists and psychologists. They will go inside of prisons. They will go inside of schools for troubled youth with all sorts of mental illness. And all they would do is just take away white sugar and give them a little DHA, EPA, docosahexaenoic acid, icosapentaenoid. Those are fatty acids that help the brain to function properly. They would notice that just by taking away white sugar and giving them a few supplements for the brain, that their behavior, the negative behavior, will almost dissipate overnight. We're talking about violent criminals. They've already done studies where if you release people from prison and you give them classes on jobs, their recidivism rate drops about 20-25%. But if you teach them how to eat healthy, which affects the brain, which helps you make better decisions. See, when you're stressed out, but your brain is operating on a high level, you won't give up as easily as if your brain is cracked out. So when you add the health component to the job training component, you could eliminate recidivism. And that's why our ministry, we're actively working to get involved with we want to start a prison ministry that's based on nutrition, because we know how important it is. Listen, there is no issue affecting our people that you can talk about to me without including healthy eating. You can't. You can try, but look at us. Yeah. You can't be free if you're enslaved to your enemies and oppressors because you're sick. Because let me tell you something, you can scream black power to the highest heavens, but when you get sick, you will turn into a slave for that white doctor. All of that black power, all of your activism will go out the window the minute you get sick. And they know that. And so that's why J. Edgar Hoover, he said that the greatest threat to white supremacy is black unity, and the greatest threat is a black messiah. But and so what they fear the most, even more so than a messianic figure that can deliver our people from poverty, like what Dr. Martin Luther King was trying to focus on. What they fear much more than a black messiah that has a voice that can deliver our people from elements of the criminal justice system. They fear a black man that can come along that has the strength and the courage and the voice to destroy the $2 trillion pharmaceutical industry, the $1 trillion food industry, and then now we have a focus to get our people away from that $1 trillion H2O industry also. And so that's why as soon as I get to 26,000 subscribers, all of a sudden, why can't I say things that even some other black folk can say? I say certain terms and they shut me down. I had a video.
Who shut you down?
All of them. Let's use TikTok as an example. I had a video that
social media sites.
Right, yes, sir.
When you start speaking this,
correct,
this like
right,
pulsating truth.
Yes. That's being because they know what they know, and here's why it's always this is why I don't shy away from telling people that no, I'm a minister, I am a preacher. Here's why I don't shy away from that, because if you look at the history of our people, every revolution has been led by some type of preacher. If you can go from Nat Turner, he was a preacher. You can go all the way to currently minister, preacher, Louis Farrakhan, who was a tremendous preacher. You know, so, but then also most of the damage that's been done to us has come from that preacher also. They always use the preacher. So I'm honored to be in that line of Nat Turner, Marcus Garvey, and so forth. And so they know that. And so that's why I'm scrutinized more than anybody else, because because they know. That's why I told you that I don't believe the battle is lost. Yeah. If everybody even that one lecture that I did on genocide by diet that we did, if every single one of our people heard that lecture, it would start a revolution. And they know that the message that was delivered last night, they know that also. So that's why they have to suppress, because they know that truth always overpowers a lie. And so they have to go through these great efforts of marketing lies to people while suppressing those who have the truth, and not only who have the truth, but who are gifted in delivering the truth in a manner that will spark a revolution.
You sit here in Southeast Washington, D.C. at 1918 Martin Luther King Avenue, We Act Radio. We have one of the founders of We Act Radio sitting in the studio with us. His name is Pappy Kimon Freeman, black man, angry black man in therapy, as he is often called, with someone else who you're most familiar with, Avis.
Yes, sir.
My backbone, my partner, my brother. But we know you got to leave. You and your bride have to leave to go back to St. Louis literally today, in a few minutes. So in the few minutes that we have remaining, we touched on like really big, broad subjects. I'd like to narrow down a little bit. I've noticed something. My dad, in the late 60s and early 70s, he was diabetic. He had his toes amputated, then his foot, and then his leg. And what they used to say, people in the family and the friends used to say he had sugar. Yeah. And he used the word diabetes. Yeah. Now, it's almost as if we are normalizing. Pretty much everybody gets diabetes.
Right.
Kind of, you know. Can you, let's deal with that for a moment. Let's deal with diabetes for a moment. What most contributes to it, and from your perspective, education, understanding, and research, what's the most impactful ways to reverse it?
Okay, and then I want to say this is that on our website, theministerofwellness.com, we have tons of success stories. So we had a lady last night and she reversed her diabetes. I help people reverse diabetes so commonly that it's abhorrent that you have a whole month dedicated to a disease that a preacher has helped. Thousands.
I want to talk to my audience again because I want them to listen. I want them to hear, because this rolls off of your tongue and off of your deep, preacher voice very naturally. But you just hear the man say he's got documented evidence of helping real life people reverse diabetes. Yes. Listen up.
Yes.
Listen up. You know you got folks in your family. You know you got people that you love. You know you got it yourself.
Yeah.
Listen up.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, diabetes is not about the sugar. It's not about the sugar. That's one of the biggest lies we've ever been told. The reason why they always trying to demonize sugar is because the basic component, when you break melanin down, it gives us our power. It is sugar. So we need sugar. It just has to be the right type of sugar. Type 2 diabetes is from two things. It's from fat that comes from all the meat we eat, and is from excessive production of insulin from the pancreas when we're eating the other junk food. So we have the Satanic American diet is two things. It's meat, and then it's a bunch of processed sugar, white sugar. The meat, the cell is supposed to be open so that when you do consume some form of carbohydrates that's broken down into sugar, insulin is supposed to deliver it inside of the cell. So the cell's supposed to be open. Diabetes, your cell is closed. That's because of fat. So that's your meat. But also when you do the junk food carbs, the chips, donuts, crackers, cookies, pancakes, all of those things, too much insulin is excreted. And when too much insulin is excreted, it swells up fat cells. So it also clogs up. So that diabetic, you have an issue of too much fat. So what you need to do is you need to eliminate the meat, eliminate all forms of meat. I don't know who told black people that chicken isn't meat. I don't know who told black people that seafood isn't meat. Is meat. Okay, anything that had a mother and a father, eliminated. So that takes away your saturated fat. So it'll open up a little bit. Now, you also want to eat a form of healthy sugar that God created that will not require the pancreas to have to produce too much insulin. You want the pancreas to rest, and you want to figure out a way, what can I eat that won't produce any insulin? So that the pancreas can rest, I don't excrete insulin, and then that'll further dissolve the fat that's coating my cell. That's where your fruit come in. That's where your fruit come in. Grapes, berries, and melons. So if I have a diabetic, what I'm going to do is, now this is optimal. Okay, I'm giving you the optimal to quickly reverse it.
I understand.
I'm going to tell you for 21 days, I want you to eat organic grapes with seed in it for 21 days. And then I want you to juice.
Organic what?
Organic grapes with the seed.
With the seeds.
Right.
Organic grapes with the seeds.
Right. Yes, sir. However, I know how the parasitic mind works.
Yeah.
To where, I can't find grapes with seed in it. Well, then do the organic grapes. But for the sake of the Almighty, don't give up and go to McDukey's. Okay. So organic grapes with the seed, I would want you to do that for 21 days. Then I will have you juice your green vegetables. So I would have you juice freshly squeezed vegetable juice, buying your own juicer, and I will have you run cucumbers and apples through the juicer. Get your H3O2. Okay, then we have herbs that also help with the pancreas and so forth. So I will have you do that, a grape hillet, not a diet. We call it a grape heal it. I don't want you to die while you're eating. I want you to heal. So my wife came up with that term.
Diet.
Right, a heal it.
Heal it.
All right, for 21 days, nothing but grapes, getting your H3O2, and you do that for 21 days. It fructose from sugar. Here's what's amazing, Brother Rock. It's called cell infusion. Yeah. Cell infusion means that the fructose from fruit doesn't need insulin to deliver it to your cell. It puts the fructose right into your cell. So now the pancreas don't even work. It doesn't have a need to work. That's how you will reverse type 1 diabetes also. You won't even need insulin. And it'll dissolve that fat. The diabetes will be gone.
So my audience may well know what H3, what is it called?
H3O2.
Yeah, H3. They might know what it is, but I don't. What is that?
It's a higher level form of hydration for black people, for melanation. So we've been sold a bill of goods that we need H2O when water, unless it's running through rocks, is really been stripped of all of its minerals and vitalization. And then we have a huge problem with pollution. That's why these days eating fish and salmon is worse than eating pork because of water pollution. H3O2 is hydration straight from the fruit, straight from the vegetable. So what I'm saying is that you want to eat your hydration. If you get on a mostly what's called a frugivore eating style, where you're consuming mostly fresh fruits and then you're juicing, you will have no need for H2O. So what I'm saying is that to drink eight cups of water per day, what I'm saying is that that's a myth. Is that and it's a dangerous myth because it's too much pollution in the water. I water fasted for 30 days and it almost destroyed me. My salivatory glands were deadened. I had I would never do that again. Now, with the H3O2, I'm able to operate at a much higher level, much higher frequency. Alkalinity, that's what it's called. I'm teaching what the great Dr. Sebi would teach, called an alkaline way of eating. Electricity. Remember that movie when Jamie Foxx played the Electric Man? Sure. What I'm saying is that's how black people are supposed to be. All of that stuff is symbolized. We were the original superheroes. That's why, like, Mr. Browder talks about all the time. How in the world could we? They said that the Chinese tried to build the pyramids, and they said they had to give up after 10 years. 10 years, and they still couldn't duplicate it what black people were doing 5,000 years ago because we were operating on such a high level. Right. And that's because we were eating naturally and we were living much naturally.
I have a book of questions that we can talk about, and I know we don't have the time. I would like to do this though as we wrap. Is focus on the woman, and then we'll go and focus on the man. And it's, I don't care how it sounds, trite or otherwise, but I'm aware of a proliferation of mastectomies.
Yes.
That take place. Can you speak to that for a moment about why that is happening?
Yeah, it's terrible, and that's why people need to follow our YouTube channel, because we do free health coaching throughout the whole week. We do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, morning, evening. Me and my wife sit there for 2 hours in the day, morning, evening, do free health coaching.
Folks, you got people. Yeah. You got people. You got some folks that love you. They need your love. They need your love. They need your support. Yeah.
But the mastectomies, this whole thing of mutilating the body. How dare these people tell us that we don't need what God gave us? I mean, it's just that this stuff is so satanic. I mean, God gave the woman the breast. That's life for a child. And instead of giving women real solutions, the purpose of Breast Cancer Awareness Month is to push you towards a screening. The screening is outdated, is inaccurate. There's doctors that's written thick books saying that what they use need to be banned. There are better ways of detection in the breast. But the reason why they stick with what is outdated and inaccurate is intentional, because as soon as it detects anything, and most of the breast cancers detected aren't even real cancer, but as soon as they do, that fear takes over. Again, you don't have no black power when you're sick. All of that goes out the window when that white coat tells you you have a lump, you're going to die in 6 months, you're going to do whatever they tell you, and they're going to mutilate you. They've been mutilating black women for 50, 60 years. That's why the sister wrote a book called Medical Apartheid, which is why which is why in the medical part that what's crazy, Brother Rock, is that the same people that mutilate our women breasts, that take the uterus, that take this and take this and take this, why is it that all of a sudden this industry that has a documented history of murdering people with drugs and surgeries, why would we then turn around and in the midst of a pandemic trust in them when it comes to what I call this stick? And that's what's most insane about our people. But again, without black health, some way, here's what they say: we're going to get you one day. We're going to get you, because as long as we control what you eat and we can make you sick, we're going to get you. So you can do this, you can teach your people that, but eventually all black folk, you are going to have to come through our system because we have your health. I know I'm
No. I feel you. So I asked about the woman and I asked about mastectomy. So you cannot turn on the TV again and listen. I listen to a lot of cable radio. There is a proliferation of erectile dysfunction ads and commercials. And tell your man to listen up. Tell your man to look and listen up right now. So I've worked with a lot of young men in one way or the other through management of their sports careers and, being on campus as a counselor and the rest. And I hear young guys talking about, casually, talking about the blue pill. Young guys.
Right.
I tell people I'm 70 going on 40. Get back there. Now, I wouldn't even know how to get a blue pill. So when I hear guys that are in their 20s talking about the blue pill, and I see all of these ads, talk to the brothers for a minute how they might not need that blue pill.
Well, it's erectile dysfunction and heart disease is the same thing. That's the clogging of the blood vessels. So you have blood vessels that lead to the reproductive organs, and those blood vessels, if they get clotted up with, again, saturated fat and what I call demyelinated foods, that's your white salt, your white sugar, your white potato, your white flour, all of these white foods. And it causes constipation. All diseases are grouped under 5 categories. You're either inflamed, you're either constipated, too much mucus, too much pus, or acidosis. And that comes from animal protein. All diseases are under those 5 things. So that's the same thing with erectile dysfunction. You have very small veins, which many of us can see even in our fingers. And so if those little veins and arteries, if the blood becomes thick and can't pass through, then that body part won't be able to function. And there you go. And so leading down to the male penis, if those blood vessels are clogged up, then that's what causes erectile dysfunction.
How they get it like that?
The same thing. Eat your fruits, juice your berries. Eat your fruits, juice your green vegetables, and take your herbs.
Thank you, brother. So much for joining us today. Nathaniel Jordan, the Minister of Wellness. Tell me one more time how they can get your wisdom and your wife's wisdom and all the work that you do and all the love that you spew. How they
It's very easy because nobody else has that title. The Minister of Wellness. You'll see YouTube pop up. If you Google the Minister of Wellness, you'll see us pop up, because as long as you put in the Minister of Wellness, you'll come across YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook, all over the World Wide Web.
Thank you for joining this evening. We love you, and we want you to continue to follow us. Check us out every now and then. You can go to my Facebook page. Well, you're watching the YouTube channel right now. One love.